Hello, everybody. My reading glasses. Um, Proverbs, sayings, words of wisdom, jokes, but not really jokes, life lessons. Wonder if I can put my reading glasses on because it's a bit cool out today. Although I don't need them to see you. I'll put them on. Before that, I always forget. Welcome to my off-grid homestead in the forest, the beautiful New Brunswick. A bit of a sun today, but this is the story now at this time of year. For the past 2 months, we've had little sun, and I guess that's cause for complaint and whining. If any of you, like I am, dependent on the sun to harvest the power of the sun for the renewables, to power the house. But at the same time, something good about it is that, like most places where it's milder, they have milder winters, it's gray and cloudy. You can't have everything. Whereas historically here in this region, it's been super sunny and blue sky, but cold. So now I would not be sitting out here on a regular winter day, talking to you because it would have been too cold. It is minus 15 with wind chill Celsius, or minus 8 without the wind chill. As you've seen some of my other videos, it could have easily been minus 25 without the wind chill. And so it's calm. You can see the snow is just coming down. It's super flaky, super fluffy. This snow, I was just shoveling a little bit here so I can sit. I don't know if you can see. And it's something like 95, 97% air. The skier's delight. So what we're here for today is back, and maybe perhaps still today, my ancestors, tribe, whatever, of 10,000 years ago. So you don't ask. Sumerians, Mesopotamians, then Babylonians, then Elamites, then Persians, Parthians, I think. Yeah, that whole region. For 10,000 years, these folks came together as neighbors or acquainted relatives or villagers on the longest night of the year, and it is called the Night of Yelda. Sort of like that video game. I'm not into video games, but I've heard of Zelda. So instead of replace the Z with a Y, Yelda. I don't know what it means. I could look it up. I should look it up. Should have looked it up before making this video. But what it is that elders. I remember when I was little. This is not a religious thing. This predates all religions. 10,000 years ago, paganism, all of those. This predates everything. All of those. When people just celebrated nature, and even when they had the first monotheist religion in that area, called Zoroastria or Zoroastrians, where they believed, and there were three. I have mittens on. I'm trying to show you fingers. There had three. It was three things at the very base core of it, and that was good words, good deeds, and good thoughts. And they respected the earth and everything. So that goes back something like 1000 BC. Something like that. Oh, I hear some neighbors going for a walk. If they see me, they'll start talking to me. And then I have to stop the video. I think what I'll do is maybe get down so they don't see my yellow jacket. but you'll hear them in the background. I hope you can still see me here. It's nice to hear a sound of, I shouldn't say, I mean, people going by where otherwise you don't hear anything else in the forest. All right, maybe I'll whisper. I like talking to them, but I just came out to shoot this video. I don't feel like necessarily like talking to anyone else right now, but I may have to stop this video. Can you hear them? All right, I just keep talking about what I was talking about. If they call me, I'll wave. I'm eavesdropping. Okay, they went by. No doubt they saw me. Maybe you'll see it in the video. So anyway, yeah. So elders used to sit around on the longest night of the year. That would be December 30th, I believe, and recite poetry, drink wine, tell words of wisdom. The life lessons that they learned over the years, or from other people. And today, that's not that time of year. I wanted to make a video at that time, but it was colder at that time, so I skipped. And now that it's nicer, we're January 8th today, or 7th. So we're a week or 10 days or whatever away from that date. But nonetheless, the point is this. I wanted to tell you now that I'm I'm the third oldest in my neighborhood of 74 people. I'm almost an elder here. And so I guess I qualify to make this video and say some of those proverbs or lessons or jokes that are not necessarily funny, but life lessons to anyone that wants to hear it. So let's see where to start. Because of that region that I mentioned, not too far from Russia, which was the epicenter of the communist movement. A lot of jokes have come from there, for instance, but not to, and I will tell you, and I'll give you reasons why I'm saying this, not to single out any particular country or region like the Eastern Bloc, but because I do believe that human behavior wherever you go, these lessons apply to all cultures. And some of you who may not have heard these things can't relate to these words of wisdom sort of things. If you ask your neighbors who are from an older world regions, they'll tell you that it's so true and it can apply to their country. So I'm only saying Eastern region bloc, Eastern Europe, because of where I heard it, how I heard it, and the people that did tell me it, where it came from. All right. So no offense to anyone. I even have I'm quarter Russian. So anyway, so here's the first one. This is a sort of a joke, but not a joke. As you know, communist belief is that everything belongs to everyone. Nobody owns anything. So with that in mind, let's go into it. A guy goes to the Ministry of, I guess, Transportation to get registered to get a new car. For those of you who don't know, can't relate, you couldn't just go to a dealership and buy a car or buy a car from someone secondhand. You had to go, if you wanted a new car, you had to go to the ministry, sign up for it, wait. There's a waiting list, so it's your turn, and then you get it at a low cost, but the car was low quality too. Not like cars were high quality, even Mercedes or whatever. 40, 50 years ago, all cars were bad, in my opinion. But so he goes to the Ministry of Transportation and walks into the office, to the officer behind the desk and says, comrade, I'm here to register to get a new car. So the guy says, okay, comrade, fill this form and bring it back. So the guy goes and sits down, fills the form, whatever information they need, goes back to the desk, hands it back to them, the officer, whoever, the guy in charge. And the guy says, and he looks at it and he says, yeah, everything seems to be in order. Okay, come back in exactly 20 years, same day, 20 years from now. So you didn't want to be a smartass or sound like ungrateful or whatever, but the guy's kind of hesitating to say anything, and the officer says, is there something else? And the guy says, well, comrade, when you say 20 years, can you narrow it down? Like, can you tell me what time on that day? The officer says, oh, a smartass, eh? How ungrateful you are you're getting a new car at cost or whatever. He said, no, comrade, I didn't mean that. I don't mean to offend. None of that. I don't mean to seem ungrateful. It's only that the plumber is also coming on that day to install a toilet, and I want to make sure I don't miss him. Miss him. I have to wait another 20 years to get a toilet. The lesson in that is that some of these, when we think of communist beliefs and everything belongs to everyone, at first it starts out right. It's true. Why should some people have everything, some people have nothing? But then historically that has not happened. Those handful of people at the top had everything, and most of the people were just miserable, suffering, nothing. Still today I have neighbors and friends and family who are remembering those days. They were traumatized by what they went through, or maybe even what their parents went through. They were too little to remember it well. Another one along the same line of stories. Two neighbors are talking. This is again in the Eastern Bloc, for instance, a communist. One neighbor asks the other, comrade, if you had two houses, would you give me one? And the other one says, yes, of course I would. We're comrades. He goes, oh, okay, that's nice. That's nice. Comrade, if you had two cars, would you give me one? And the guy says, no hesitation. He says, of course I would. That's at the core of being a socialist culture, country. What I have is yours. What you have is mine. We share everything. And so for some of you who don't know about that area, a house was not as somehow valuable in some people's eyes as a car would, because a house is crumbling, it's whatever. But if you had a car, no matter how cheaply it was made or whatever, wow, this guy has a car. So it meant a lot to have a car. Like, wow, you would give me one of your cars. Comrade, if you had two chickens, would you give me one? And without hesitation, the guy says, nope. He says, wait a minute. If you had two houses, you would give me one? He says, yeah. And if you had two cars, you would give me one? He says, yeah. But you wouldn't give me one of your chickens? He said, yeah. He said, but why? And the guy says, because I have two chickens. The lesson there is that it's easy for us to give away things that we don't have, we don't possess. It's almost like volunteering someone else's services for something. When I say, yeah, if I had whatever, $1 million, I'll give you half of it. Tomorrow, win $1 million, you forget everyone and every promise you ever made. So you're getting me now, right? Where we're going with this whole video today. I have a few from a my brother-in-law, shout out to Yatsik in Santa Barbara, who I lost touch with for 25 years, something like that. And recently I just reconnected with him, and well, because now we have this high-speed internet. And he told me if he was really funny guy. He's still really funny. He's older than me, maybe a couple years older. Sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned that. Old man. That's another joke that I have. But yeah, I'll tell you that too. That's funny. I just remembered that. And maybe I'll tell you that now before I tell you the jokes that he told me 25 years ago. So you know how sometimes we look at someone, we remember them from a long time ago, and you say, wow, they've aged. Looks so old. Oh my God. And not like gracefully either. So this is the joke. A guy moves to a new town and he goes to a new dentist for the first time. And the receptionist says, Mr. Smith, here's your file. Please go in waiting room number 5 and wait for Dr. Stevens. So the guy takes this file, goes in. And you've seen this, people give you the file to go. And so he goes with the file, puts it in the room, and lies down on that chair. And he's looking around, while he's waiting for the dentist, he's looking around the walls and sees the guy's credentials and the certificates and that. And it's like, Robert Stevens. He says, I knew a Robert Stevens from high school. I wonder if this is the same Robert Stevens from high school. Anyway, as he's lying there looks outside the door, he sees this tall, old skinny guy go by. And he goes, that looks like, oh my God, that is him. Oh my God, he's gotten old. Look at him. Boy, time has not been good to him. So when he comes back, when the dentist comes in, he says, hello, Mr. Smith. My name is Dr. Stevens. I see here you're a new patient. Have you recently moved to our fair city? He says, yes. And he's like looking at him as if kind of like, do you recognize me? And then the dentist kind of strangely looking at him. Why is he looking at me like that? And he says, so what seems to be the trouble? Are you feeling like a cavity coming along, or is it pain? And he says, yes, but do you recognize me at all? Do I look familiar to you? And the dentist looks at him. He says, well, you're new to town, so I don't see how I would know you. He says, the patient says, Mr. Smith says, did you go to Sir John A. Macdonald High School? And the dentist says, yes. And he says, do you recognize him? He said, no. He says, well, class of 88. And he says, looks at him again and says, no, I don't, honestly. And he says, Johnny Smith, do you recognize me now? He says, I'm sorry, sir. I really can't place you. I honestly, I don't mean to be rude. I'm trying my best, but I can't. But what did you teach? You get it? Well, the patient thinks that this guy's aged not well and the time hasn't been good to him. He looks so much older. The dentist thinks that the guy looks so much older, they could have been his teacher. Yeah? Okay. So back to my brother-in-law. My funny brother-in-law. Let me see if I can remember any of his jokes. Okay. Well, he's Polish, I mentioned. But again, this is not knocking Poles. I mean, I just said Sumerians, Babylonians, Persians, whoever that I tell these jokes to, whatever culture, they tell me they have something similar like that. So it's not, I'm not picking on anyone in particular, just human behavior. It's a particularly bad year, drought, and farmers are losing all their crops, their animals, whatever, and God feels bad and calls an angel in. He says, go down and grant each one of these 3 farmers a wish, whatever they want. So the angel goes down and gets a wheat farmer, a sheep farmer, and a cattle farmer. He says, I'm here to grant you each 1 wish. Whatever you want, you can have. The sheep farmer says, I want my entire flock of, I think they're flocks of sheep, let's just say flock, my entire flock of sheep back. And the angel says, done. And the entire flock of sheep right there in the pasture. Goes to the cattle farmer, what would you like? And he says, can I have my entire herd of cattle back? And the angel says, of course you can, done. And it's an entire herd of cows, on the pasture. And calls the third one, says to the wheat farmer, your turn, what would you like? He says, I can have anything. He said, you can have absolutely anything you want. Whatever you want, I'm here to grant it. And he says, kill their entire herds of animals. The point of this story is that sometimes as human beings, we just can't see, we can't just be happy for someone else. We just, some old world folks on their outside of their wall as you come in or inside, they have these medallions, or even some Chinese have some water feature, sort of a feng shui thing to ward off evil eye, stink eye, wherever you're from. It's why do you think that is for thousands of years? Because sometimes we just can't be happy for someone else. Even if we have just as much as they have, we just can't be happy for them. What else did he say to me? Oh yeah, so a guy dies, I don't believe in that either. The guy dies and he's sent to hell. At the gate of hell, the angel of whatever, for those of you who know, meets him. He says, okay, I want to give you 2 options. He goes, okay, let's go. And as they go into the elevator, they start descending down. And the elevator opens, they go out, they see people stand, in this pool of poop. It stinks, but then there are waiters bringing in drinks. They're taking their drink orders, bringing in drinks, serving them drinks. And he goes, okay, that's bad. Stinks, but getting free drinks. No one's really complaining. I mean, obviously you've done something wrong to be here. He goes, what's my second option? Back into the elevator. They go down lower, and then there's this fiery pit, and people are frying in it and screaming, and there's mayhem, and he goes, no, I definitely don't want this. Can I have the first option? So yeah, sure. Are you sure though? So yeah, I don't want to be here. Back in the elevator, they go up, get out, and goes, okay, get in. Gets into the pool, and up to his neck in poop, and a car. Oh, it's not a car, it's the plow. That's nice. I don't have to go out, but it's good to have the plow. Can you see it? We didn't hardly have any snow. It's like less than an inch of snow. This is why I love this area. They're very proud of their community. Anyway, this would not have happened to us in the city. So where was I? Yeah, so the guy goes and stands in this pool of poop, like with everyone else. waiting for a waiter to come and take his drink order. Just as the waiter is approaching to take his order, a whistle goes off. And the guard says, "Okay, the break's over, sit down." The lesson there is that it's sort of like the grass is always greener. So sometimes you think that you're going from you're getting yourself out of a bad place into a better place. You're not necessarily. And sometimes when I tell people, when I'm coaching them about moving out of city to some other place, and I say to them, don't go from, obviously, this is more obvious, don't go from frying pan to straight to fire, but also don't also go from a cast iron frying pan into a stainless steel frying pan. It's still a frying pan, it's still on fire. Just ready yourself, be realistic about what you want, what you're going to get, or how life is going to be elsewhere. It's not all shits and giggles. Another joke is along the same line of that other one. The guy goes to hell. This guard takes him. Oh, no, sorry. There are two guards talking, standing outside of these fiery pits of um, um, sinners, whatever, and they're all trying to climb out of the fire, and the guards are out there with these sort of like a Neptune forks, and she forced them back down in the fire because that's their sentence, and they're supposed to be in pits of fire and burning. And one day, one guard's talking to the next as he's doing this, pushing people back down with his fork down into the hole, into the pit, and all of a sudden, the one guard that's doing the work says to the other one, "Well, aren't you working today?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "But your people are gonna, while you're not there to climb, make sure they don't climb out. They're gonna climb out of the pit. You're gonna, your job is to make sure they don't climb out." So, "Oh no, don't worry about it. They're Polish." Again, this is because he was Polish. He's telling this can go for any culture. He says, "They're Polish. What does that have to do with anything?" He says, "Well, what you don't know is that if one tries to climb out of the fiery pit, another one will pull him down. So my job is done. I don't have to worry about that." So you see how sometimes I was saying you can't be happy for someone else having something, or at least help someone out of a jam. We're happier having them in there with our, sort of like the misery likes company. Where do you think these sayings come from? Did I have more to tell you? Oh, I was saying actually this joke to a neighbor of mine who's Bulgarian. I guess it's the same region, but still, so you don't think I'm picking on Polish or whatever in particular. I was saying this joke to him. He said, "Yeah, Bulgarians have a similar saying. It says something. It goes something like, the guy sets his house on fire so he can set his neighbor's shed. So he can set his neighbor's shed. He can destroy his neighbor's shed. It's kind of close to his house, to his property, and he doesn't like it. So he sets his whole house on fire, so that once the fire gets big enough, he can set his neighbor's shed, which is maybe a bit too close to his property line, on fire and destroy that too." Do you know what I mean? It's hilarious because actually, when we moved into this neighborhood in London, we just moved in, and a neighbor had this big, beautiful, established cherry tree, and it was not they're not productive every single year. So that was a particularly glorious year. The branches were drooping with these big, beautiful cherries, and so one big particular branch was way into our property, over our fence by about a good 10 feet. So I got my ladder, I put it under the branch that was into our property by 10 feet. And I climbed up on it, and I picked some cherries, and I went around the neighborhood, and I introduced myself. I said, "We're new here, and these cherries are compliments of our neighbor, who has a cherry tree that's come out that's 10 feet into our, one of its branches, because it was pretty big. It was maybe 30, maybe 40 feet tall. One of its branches is in our coming to on our property, and I'm sharing this with you and all that." That weekend, this was maybe a Friday, and then maybe that same day, we went for a weekend to another city where we had just moved to, so about an hour or hour and a half away. When we came back, do you know what the neighbor had done? I think you know where I'm going with this. He had cut down that branch, that entire branch that was sticking into our property by 10 feet, so I wouldn't have access to his cherries. Who, who cuts a tree down, a living, producing tree? And it was 40 feet tall, and it had many branches, and it was just, the tree was drooping with these big, beautiful cherries. There was enough abundance for everyone. And I was going around the neighborhood sharing it with the neighbors, not around the neighborhood, the immediate houses. So I can tell you how many houses, 1, 2, 3. I went to 3 or 4 houses with like a pint of cherries that I said where I got it from. Even I didn't even say I bought this from my own pocket money and I'm giving it to you because I'm a nice guy. I said I got it from my neighbor. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. That story is 15 years old now, or more, 17 years or something, and I still remember it as if it was yesterday. This is human nature. Now, I don't know if there's any more, but I have to go inside and get lunch ready. I'm frying plantains, so that's going to take time. And I have to stoke the fire. And my butt's cold. I'm wearing my snow pants. I don't know if you can tell. And snow pants, for those of you who don't know what they are, they're like many layers of insulation in that, so you can be comfortable, but not like not moving. When I shovel snow, I can sweat. When you're skiing and that, you can sweat, but not when you're sitting on cold -8, not including wind chill. Anyway, it was nice talking to you. If you have any words of wisdom like that, proverbs, sayings, life lessons, let me know. I'm always fascinated to hear that. I'm sure there's a few that I'm going to remember almost immediately after I press the off button, but like I said, I do have to go. I do have other things to do. Namaste.